Good evening. Sorry, I think my network is trying to wala me. Hello, Baba GJ. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Okay, okay. Good evening. Um, Nice having you here. Um, Boss Victor. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Please, my name is Victor. I beg you, the boss.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna. I will try my best. It's gonna be hard, but I will try my best. I'll try my best. Um, so, okay, let's wait for a few more persons to join. So, I'm going to tag the portfolios based on where we last stopped, and We'll continue from where we last stopped. So, I'm going to just tag them one. You don't have to go through. You don't have to go through all the projects on the portfolio. You can just probably pick two projects for those who send their portfolio, then give an overview of their CV, what you think that they can work on.
Pretty clearly, you're saying that you will tag the portfolio to me, or you tag me to the portfolio, and
Okay.
then,
Can you see the but can you check the CV section of the group
yeah, I can
on the
see
group?
number one, I can see number two.
Yeah. So we'll go through them in that order.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So it's easier for you to find the CVs.
Whenever you're ready, let me know.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I see some persons have joined. Hello, Peter. Hello, Simba. Wait, is this Simba? Simba that we know. Hello, Justin. It's nice having everyone. Welcome to our how many edition now? Our fifth edition of Portfolio Review on Design Jobcaster, and our special guest today is not other than Odogu Victor
Mahala.
Enesi.
Mahala.
Don't worry, I'll be upgrading like that. So over to you. You can share your screen, and so you display. You can drop your review. If you have not shared your portfolio, please kindly do so. So we'll get to review it.
So
That's,
if I'm correct, I can see four portfolios. So that's what we're going for.
yeah. No.
All right.
I'm still tagging more. Yeah, I'm still tagging
Okay.
more. We can't see your screen though.
Yeah, I'm not sharing it.
Oh, okay.
Can you see my screen?
A minute. Yes, I can see your screen now.
Can everyone see my screen? Hello? Hello?
If you can see your screen, if you can see his screen, please kindly unmute and say you can't see his screen, please. Hello, Esther.
Yes, Pastor Train.
All right. I think one person is enough. All right. So, good evening,
Yeah, we can
everyone.
see your screen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Enesi. I'm a designer, just like you. I've been doing that for a while now. Um, I currently work with a company called Field. They're the largest pharmaceutical supply chain company in Nigeria, probably West Africa. So, what Field basically does is it helps to solve the problem of pharmacies acquiring drugs and products for their pharmacies. In other words, instead of them having to deal with their local supplier that doesn't actually know how to educate them on certain products that should be in their stores, We tend to deal with a multinational like Field. Field is currently present in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Germany. Right. So that's that. Um, but then I've been, like I said, I've been designing for a while. I worked upstairs. I worked at a company called Residential Interiors. I worked at a company in LA called Telly is crypto, and they provide creative services they provide a platform for creative individuals like you and I to express ourselves and put our work out there, right? Then I've also worked for another company, more like consult, for a company called Simplified UX. Some of you might have heard about it, right? I'm pretty sure Leslie has heard about it because they have a partnership with Design Job Caster. So Simplified UX is basically a platform that helps to train individuals and create a path to them. So, but however, they're more product focused than brand and communications design focused. Right. I'm happy to share the link after this call. So that's the brief summary. I hope it wasn't too long. All right, let's get to the other thing. So I'm going to treat this in a way that if I'm recruiting for the position, if I'm recruiting someone, how would I review the person's portfolio? And that way it's more practical and it's more relatable. And so let's start off with the portfolio of Mr. Anthony Zogo. I'm going to assume that is the name. Right. So the first thing is, I'm sure if this person is on the call, I hope that you take those pointers and also know that this pointers is majorly my opinion. And even though it's my opinion, I believe they're going to be valuable for you, which is why I said that I expect that it would be more around how I recruit. Part of the objective though. So first off, my first challenge with this portfolio is I don't necessarily consider this a portfolio. Right. I consider it more of a work showcase. And that is a portfolio is more than a work showcase. Right. So if you're using a platform like Behance, I'm sure you've heard it before. You're using platforms like Behance, you're using platforms like Dribble. It cuts the value or it cuts your chances of getting a job by roughly 30%. Reason being that if I see someone that is using maybe a platform like a custom platform like a site or Webflow with a properly structured portfolio, or someone that is using Notion to create a body of work, I prioritize the person over you. I only use you, this particular person, if number one, your body of work is really, really good, right? But number two is, of all the options, you are probably the best. And in that case, a lot of times, I just discard everything and then I go back to the drawing board. Or I come back to you. If I see that you seem like an interesting fellow, I come back to you and then I say, do you mind putting this together into something that is more interesting to look at, more like a story? Now, don't get me wrong, Behance is trying hard to be that kind of platform, but it's still not there yet. So a typical example is I can see your name, I can see that you're lead designer, right? And I'm going to assume that you're more of a brand and communications designer, not a product designer, right? Or UX designer. I can see Linktree here, which I don't know what it was. So if I click on the Linktree, so I'm starting off. So before I go on, the reason why I'm going to this section, the left section, is my structure is I read about you, then I look at your work. Reading about you make me know if you're an interesting person, someone that I can resonate with, and then I can go ahead to read your work, right? So the first thing I can see your link tree. It has a portfolio, which based on the URL that is shown at the bottom left, you linking back to design. WhatsApp, I don't know why you have a WhatsApp here. Going to assume if you want, that's for contractual conversations, right? But professionally, I would rather use email. And I can't see an email here. In other words, it means to email you. Neither is it here. So, which means if I want to contact you, I would rather have to go through any of the social platforms, which if I'm going through social platform to contact you, the chances of me wanting to contact you for something extremely serious. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the chances of that is very slim. I can see Profile, through WhatsApp, I can see LinkedIn, I can see Instagram. So of all the links here, the only two links I'll select is LinkedIn and portfolio. LinkedIn, because LinkedIn would basically show the structure of your career, right? The journey of your career, the body of work, and then the portfolio to see it. WhatsApp and Instagram, I don't necessarily need that. They are personal platforms, right? So I don't need that. Then I think that's basically all I can see here. Here it's saying share, I don't need that as well. So there isn't much to get me to know you, not much information here. So if I'm giving that a 20% score, I'll probably give you a 3 or a 4, right? So if I'm categorizing the different sections by 20%, I'm giving you a 3 or 4 here. I only know that you say your location is in Lagos, Nigeria. I don't need that. Lead designers, single designs. I don't know much about the work experience, the sort of thing. So now let's move to the work, right? Now here is my Naira Boom logo project, event app. Yeah, apparently you do product work too. Brand design for Cat of Nine Lives, book cover design, UI design for job app, brand identity. Now another issue with why I would even prefer a PDF to platforms like Beyonce's. With PDFs and websites, you have good control of how you structure your work. So in this case, I'm saying brand and product mixed together. I want to see like brand categorized somewhere, product categorized somewhere. That's number one. Number two is the portfolio, yeah. Even though the Nigerian environment enables you to mix these things together, which is why you see different job ads looking for a graphics designer, and then you start seeing responsibilities sort of focus, and you're confused. You see job responsibilities that requires you using After Effects, Premiere Pro. It's confusing. So I'm going to assume that is the reason why a lot of people create portfolio here, to show off work. But I would want you to show off work based on the job you want to apply for. If you're applying for product work, show off product work. If you're applying for brand work, show off brand work, right? Don't mix them together. It gets confusing. Now, I'm going to start off with this. So I'm going to, let's just assume I'm recruiting for the role of a brand and communications designer or a graphics designer. This is also this visual planning project. I can't see a story here. I cannot see a story here. I can only see visuals, right? Which is good. Nice potential. But like I said, I cannot see a story here. And then for like here, I'm going to assume you did it, but for all I know, you may not actually have done it. I'm sure you guys have seen in industry where people get copy other people's work. That is also something that I'm not ruling out. Then another thing is, if you can, now I'm not saying it's a requirement. For some people it is. They will tell you clearly that you want to see that you worked on real life projects. But if you can, try as much as possible to put up real life projects. Find real life projects that have been launched. That's what I define as real life, right? Not projects that have not been launched. So find real life projects that have been launched, and then you put them up. That way, if I'm going to look for those projects in real life, I can see how they've been used. I can see that you have real world experience, and not projects that I don't know if they are your own thinking. And even if they are your thinking, please put it there, right? Let it be clear that this is an idea that was conceived by me and not through a client relationship. This is very important. But like I said, it is not a requirement. It will give you an edge, I'm going to be honest, but it is not a requirement. So this is out of the question. I can't see anything here. This is product work. I'm not going to go through this. This is brand identity designs for Cat of Nine Lives. The TV and online show organizer, simply hosted. But this is more story. If you notice, it's better than the previous one. It says, simply hosting individuals going through cancer have survived this disease, which has been a menace to humanity. But I still don't see like more intensive story, like your process, right? How did you come up with these ideas? Did you do research? Did you like get inspiration from someone? Did you get inspiration from cats? Because it says Cat of Nine Lives, right? How does this translate to the project? How does it give it meaning? What are the revisions that you have? What are the feedback that you've gotten from a client? These are stuff that people would want to see. These are stuff that they would love to read. Because I could go ahead and just go to a logo template platform, type in Cat of Nine Lives, and I could see interesting logos for the Cat of Nine Life brand. It doesn't make it different than what you've done here, right? So I'm not much interested in individuals as much as I'm interested in the story. This is good visuals, but I still want to see the story. Then I want to see where these visuals were used. Are they just random visuals that we created or mock-ups we created for the beauty of it, or these are stuff that were actually used, right? And these are questions that will get asked. These are questions that will get asked, and you need to be able to answer them directly, so that it gives you an edge. Brand identity for laundry. Same thing here. They accept everything, including blah. I still can't say a story. So at this point, I am assuming that a lot of your work here would follow this particular pattern. And as someone who is going to be reviewing a lot of portfolios, and let me tell you, for someone who reviews portfolio for work, and you can ask any other person who is recruiting for the creative department or design department, it gets tiring when you're seeing the same thing over and over. It's the reason why some people don't get back, which although it's very bad etiquette that someone would apply for a job and you don't get back to them if they are proceeding to the next level or not. But people don't, right? And some people, they don't get back out of annoyance, like, what is this? So in this case, your work is your body of work is good. It just lacks context. Most times it lacks context. It lacks the story, it lacks the process, it lacks the feedback from client. What did the client say, right? How did you receive their feedback? What are the revisions that you've had to do on the logo? These are things that I'd like to see. And to be honest, Behance doesn't encourage these things. But there are exceptions, right? There are platforms that actually write the text and the story as much as to put the pictures. When I mean platforms, I mean individuals that actually have a portfolio in that category. I can't remember one right now, but if I once I do, I'll just share it to the Telegram group so you can look and you can copy their template. And this case, with the introduction of AI, it's very easy for you to come up with a story. You just tell the AI, come up with a brand story, and ChatGPT, come up with a brand story of a product that basically is in the crypto space, another product that is in the betting industry, that sort of thing. Right? If I click randomly now, let's say I click on this, it's the same thing. It is the same thing. Your first 3 or 4 projects, which is another pointer. The first 3 or 4 projects should wow me, should be a reason why I want to go more. And with Behance, you have little control. And if I see this type of projects like 3 or 4 times across 4 different individuals, I may decide not to look at other Behance portfolio, even if they are good. Because if I have 50 Behance portfolios to look at, right, and 5 of them or 4 of them are basically structuring their projects in this category, part of me you feel like, have you not copied each other? Or you feel like, is this a Behance problem? And the truth is, I think more of the second issue, which is it's a Behance problem, than the first one. It would discourage me from going ahead with other portfolios. So this portfolio on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 3 or a 4 because it misses some very important things, right? Forget the views, forget the appreciation, forget the followers, forget the following. These are things that are actually very important for recruiters. That's that about that portfolio. All right. So the next one is number 2, Steven Adaga. Right? Hold on, let me confirm that. Oh, okay. Uzix is saying that he can't hear me clearly. Uzix, can you hear me now? Hello?
Hello, I think my network is bad, so like I've been so frustrated. I've been trying to hear you, but I can't really hear you. So my network is
I'm going to
bad.
assume you own the first. Is the first portfolio review, was that yours?
Sorry?
The first portfolio review. It looks like that was yours.
Yeah, the phone is fine. Yes.
All right. I wished you had heard a lot of the things I said, but then if you didn't, we can have another personal call. Just DM me, and then I'll be happy for us to go over it. Does that make sense?
Sorry, come again. I didn't get that. Sorry.
I said, if you didn't hear the bulk of what I said, you can send me a DM and then I'll be happy to go over them on a personal call with you.
Thank you very much. I'll be
But you can
so
still stay
appreciative.
online. Then this is Stephen Adaga. Okay, so Stephen Adaga, I can see the resume. Else, is that what I'm reviewing? The resume, not the portfolio. Okay, I can see the answer inside here as well. All right, awesome. Okay, I think I entered the wrong link. Are you? The answer comes Stephen Adaga. I should just search for it. Let's see if that works. Really? Yes. Let me just the answer up next. All right. Okay. So this is another portfolio on Behance. Let's review it. But I'm pretty sure if you know the person, please communicate to the person that recruiters want to see custom platforms. It's the reason why you see in some cases they'll tell you to enter your portfolio as a PDF or the URL. But Behance is nice, but Behance is not, most cases, it's not effective. It's someone who has a Notion URL or someone who has a custom site will get a pass over someone with a Behance. And when I mean custom site, you can easily just use Webflow. You can let Webflow in like a couple of about an hour or two, and then build out on Webflow. I used to have a custom site, and then I decided that, you know what, there's no point building a custom site. It requires me to like have a lot of time. I used to have one on WordPress, and then I had to scale it down. And my portfolio is basically on Behance now. Just my introduction, the value I bring to a company, my resume is right here, then my portfolio, right? Then these are basically my portfolio. This portfolio is product focused, right? The only thing that is brand in this portfolio is logo folio, right? However, it is mostly product focused. And that is what I want the client to see. I have another portfolio for brand focused one. And then these are some of the brands I've designed for over the years. I used to have testimonial here, but I took it out because I moved it to my LinkedIn. So that's basically everything here. And then I have key platforms with Behance, Dribble, LinkedIn. I don't use Twitter. I don't use Facebook for my portfolio. Neither do I use Instagram. So that's that. Now, Stephen Adaga. Stephen, hi. If you're on this call, how you doing? So first off, I can see that you're a UX designer, which basically helps me to understand what this portfolio will be about. So in other words, we're going to assume that this portfolio is for recruiting for the UI UX, or you're applying for UI UX role. And so the use case is I am interviewing for the position of a UI UX designer, and you submitted or you applied, and then you submitted this as a portfolio. So I'm going through it, right? First off, no contact information here. I can see a short about me, which makes sense, although I would have loved for it to be longer. Also, please, contact information here should be nice. So the first is Apple Store online redesign. All right, I see that. Okay. I'm pretty sure you would probably be able to predict what I'm about to say based on the previous review, right? Which is this story. I can't find the story. These are just UI designs. So my point is, if you're going to basically put UI design on a portfolio or a particular work, just put it there. Apple Store online UI redesign. Redesign could mean 1,001 things, right? So the title has to be clear. Apple Store online UI redesign, right? And so here I can see screenshots, but still, even with UI redesign, I want to see. So for UI design, I want to see introduction. I want to see what the problem is you're trying to solve, or what the product you're trying to redesign was. Number three, I want to see your benchmark. For those who may not understand, a benchmark is essentially the research you've done. In other words, you put that platform against other online platforms and other platforms in the industry and see how it's done. I want to put the research here so I can know that that is what is inspiring you, right? So I want to see the benchmark. I want to see how you reorganize the information, right? And then the UI, for the UI, what would be interesting for me to see is a comparison. In other words, on the left, you have what the site currently looks like. And then on the right, you have what you would design it to be. And then you have pointers as to what you have repositioned. In other words, let's say this image of a Apple AirPods used to be at the center, right? And then you said, because of the fact that it is not a priority, you shifted it to the left. The same thing with this. And then you could say, okay, this button used to look like a 19th century button, and then I refined it. Or you could say the button didn't have a brand color, and then I thought it was a great opportunity to add the brand color. These are stuff that are engaging. I would love to see. And then once you're done with all of that, you then begin to talk about if you want to go way out of if you want to go out of your way, you can do the interaction of how the UI works, right? That'll be beautiful as well. Then maybe record a video. There are numerous platforms for you to record videos, right? You can use QuickTime. Is this other tool called Screen Studio? Is what a lot of companies use to record videos. You can Google it, and then it's not free, but there's an app to it. Then finally, I want to see. I'm going to say this over and over. I think designers and creatives underestimate the value of client feedback, right? What that means is that if a client gives you feedback, put it on the project. Of course, you can put it as a clear text on the paper, and it doesn't have to be a client. It could be a friend. It could be another colleague that you decide to speak to about your project to get some criticism and appraisal. Put it there. I want to read it. Trust me, we want to read it. We want to see the rough work. The rough work would help to tell the story, and not just the refined word. So I want to see the client feedback. I want to see what the client said after you submitted the work. They enjoyed. They show appreciation. Then if it's possible, you have to be able to be a business person as much as you're a designer. You have to be able to and being a business person means get your work to convert. And how do you do that? If it's possible, speak to clients to get revenue stats on how the redesign has converted for them. In other words, if they used to make 10% of sales on the store before the redesign, after the redesign, they started making 60%. If they had maybe 5% of sales or 5% of website visits on a particular product, after the redesign, they started having 60%, or they had 60,000 visits in 1 month, right? So these are stats that I see that, okay, this person is not just designing for designing's sake. They look at the commercial part, and the designs are commercial. The designs convert. In fact, if you put all these things on your project may not be the finest, but I know that you actually very much care about the work you're doing, right? And that would also help to show that the work you did is a real project. In other words, it's a commercial project and not just a personal one. And if you can't find these things, if it's a personal project, it's still not a bad idea for you to speak to your friends to get some feedback on the work you're doing, right? So for instance, you test it with them. How many positives did you get? How many negatives did you get? How many reviews did you have to do before you get to the positives? Right, that is important. So I'm sorry, this doesn't pass as a portfolio. This is just like slapping images together on something. It doesn't pass as a body of work, rather. Then the second one is a fundraiser app, UI UX case study, testing by Adaga Steven. Sourced is a fundraising app that helps individuals achieve their goals via donations from well-wishers, family, and friends. Project brief, sourced is mobile app. Okay, this is good. I'm starting to see what I like. Source is a mobile app tailored to help individuals with organizations source funding for a specific cause by donations. Crowdfunding has become mainstream sites to their soft profiles. Another thing, please. You have to your sentence has to go through clear sentence casing. And so in places where you have to use capital, use them. Places where you have to use small, use them. So source prefers a solution of sorting out causes of interest that an individual, group, or organization can donate to or receive donations from. Source features decentralized donations by allowing the timeline, okay? There's the SO UI UX designer, the tools, Figma. So, design process, nice. Empathize, define, this is design thinking, nice. Project stages, user research, information architecture. The question there would be, what's the difference between the design process and the project stages, right? So these are the features of the project. These are not entirely the project stages. These are the project stages, right? Because you have to be able to categorize this under this. So features of each stage, these are what they are. This is a persona. So you skipped one thing that I'm looking for, and that is the problem you're trying to solve. But I'm not even going to go into the intricacies of design thinking process, right? You skip the problem you're trying to solve from architecture. If you don't clearly point out the problem, and if you are going to say that the problem, but it's a client work, ask the client what is the problem they are trying to solve. A lot of people don't ask the client, because sometimes in the bid to get money, we fail to ask these questions, and then we create redundant projects that already exist. Ask the client. If they tell you the problem I'm trying to solve is this, and then you realize that there's already a platform that actually solves that problem, you ask them, what makes your product different from that product? What makes people trying to be? I love the sketches, low fidelity, wireframes, love them, high fidelity, nice, colors and typography, nice. So the branding is good, but unless the scope requires you to do branding, I can't say the scope here, but unless the scope requires you to do branding, you don't need to do branding work, right? But then this is basically branding related work. Final designs, thanks for scrolling. Okay, this is good. Let me say, to be honest, right, I'll try to be as honest as possible. This is average, especially with the space of UI UX where there are a lot of people. It is average. I want to see the research data. I want to see. Let me show you something. Let me show you something from my portfolio. And you should also understand that it is not necessarily about the visuals. It is about the data, right? So this is the Stairs mobile app. I mentioned that I worked at Stairs. This project got me work with 2 different clients. And guess what? It was just a PowerPoint presentation. 2 different clients. The first is the contract project I did for the US company. The second is another project that paid me millions of naira, right, to do. But then because it had a story to it, right, I talked about the stairs, I talked about the scope of the work, which is what I mentioned before. Then I begin to show the data, links to the other part of the data, talked about design system, talked about the research. What data did I get from the research, right? Keynotes from the interview questions. So it doesn't have to be fine. Trust me, it doesn't. It just needs to show that you actually were careful and you're thoughtful and you had a process for solving it. This is some of the stats I was referring to, right? That basically helps to quantify the success metrics. And they were just screenshots. They were screenshots, nothing more. This is app launch, right? We have 5.0 ratings. We still do, at least last time I checked, on the different Play Store. These are the feedback on the launches. These are the lessons learned. Other things that you need to put that makes your portfolio interesting. The lessons learned, the next steps, so on and so forth, right? If you want, I can share this with you. If you want it, obviously. Then, so your work is average. There's a story behind it which is good, but it is still average. It still needs some refinement. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but it's good in terms of how you structure it. It's just that there's certain parts of it that are missing. If you're using design thinking approach, certain parts of your project are missing. A couple of other things as well, but this meeting is not about that. Then the third is the yellow company. So what did you do for the yellow company? I'm going to assume it was the UI UX work. This doesn't say that. It only says the title of the yellow company. And so these are just screenshots. So I'm showing you what I'm going to do if you had applied for a job or for a role with me, I am just going to be glancing through until I see something interesting and different from what I've seen before. This is just a website screenshot, so this doesn't pass. Project summary, food ordering app. What did you do for them? I still don't know. Project summary, upgrade. I'm pretty sure they are screenshots as well. The only project I see here that seems interesting for me is this. And I'm not going to do more than the 4 reviews. So a couple of points, right, is it is better for you to have 2 projects that are quality than for you to have this much. I know a lot of people have Behance projects for the views and the acquisition. Forget about those. If Behance is the place you have your project sitting in, Behance is a means to an end. It is not an end. So if you think the views and the acquisition is the end of it, then you must be wrong. And you're probably still playing around. It is a means to an end. Same thing with Dribble. In fact, Dribble is worse, right? They're means to an end, and they're not even proper means to an end. So if you do have limited resources and Behance is really a platform that you can use, maximize it, right? Put the project out there so people can see it, right? You see what I did with this? Instead of I basically linked it to Google Docs. I mean, a PDF that I created using Google Slides. You can do the same, and it cost me nothing. And this Webflow I had to create from scratch after watching a couple of Webflow videos, right? Then, so that's basically the way it is. It's very simple. There are a lot of free resources for you to maximize. Just maximize them. But if you're looking at Behance for the likes and for the views and for followers and for following, trust me, following and the followers doesn't necessarily translate to projects, right? And to gigs. And of all the projects I've seen, this is the only one that I'm ranking. And if I'm ranking it a 3 or 4 over 10. That's that. All right, thanks. Now let's move to the next one. Then one more thing, right? Please, as much as it's nice for you to put your distance, your portfolio link in your resume, next time, please, if portfolio is requested, it's better even if you paste the link. Telegram will basically refine it for you instead of putting it in here, because it was a struggle for me to get it. And if 50 people do this, I'll probably not get to yours first before I decide that I'm tired for today. Right? So that's basically the feedback, general feedback, not specifically for you. All right, so okay, I think I skipped someone, which is DDAM. All right, DDAM, Behance as well. Interesting. All right. So, hello, Damasus David. If you're on this call, nice to meet you. Says you're the Frosty King. Interesting. I want to Jack Frost, if you can understand Yoruba. All right. So, this seems like an engaging portfolio. So, love how you basically clearly talk about what you do. Still no contact information, but I like that your LinkedIn is here, which means I can easily get your contact information on your LinkedIn, right? That makes a lot of sense. I don't need your Instagram and your Pinterest, but you're fine to add it. So, like I said, you can get contact information from here. I can easily message you. Or better still, just add an email here, right under here. Or add it here, right? Oh, this is so elaborate. Finally, David Damascus. This is really good, right? If you have this, it basically cuts the need for a custom site by 50%. David Damascus has been creative for a very long time. In fact, all my life I've been in the creative world. It doesn't have to be this long, but please something, maybe 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs. If this is where your body of work sits, then do it. Being in the creative world as a dancer, nice. That is something unorthodox and engaging. Love that. Poet and now a brand creative graphics designer. I've worked on diverse levels of projects, from startups to corporate brands. I've worked with a few organizations such as brand and advertising designer. And also worked as a freelance designer for a period of 5 years, proficient use of blah, 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 blah. This is really nice. Team of creatives and a mentor of 500 designers. Wow, impressive. And creatives from different backgrounds. Okay, this is really good. So let's move on to the project. So the use case here is I am trying to recruit for the position of a brand and communications designer. So the first one says brand guidelines, brand identity, affiliate marketing, So I'm going to start with this brand identity, right? So it says here multiple owners. Okay, so I'm going to assume you did this project for someone, which is nice, right? It's important that you also add that to the project. That way I know that it is a good project. So brand guidelines, identity management, table of content about the brand, the logo, brand colors, typography, brand pattern, photography, and all of that. About the brand, who we are, brand manual. Nice. But I still don't see. So to be honest, I feel like this is just an image, right? Mr. I'd like to call you Jack first, if that's fine. So I feel like this is just an image, right? But I want to see, like I said, introduction. Who is the client, right? What is the scope of the work? Well, I'm assuming the scope of the work is the brand manual. But you know what they say, assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. So I'm going to not use that as a rule judgment. Then what is the scope of the work? How long did the project take you? What is the research that you did for the project, right? Why was this brand manual needed? That is the problem. People shouldn't think that it's only product designers that solve problems. Brand designers solve problems too. So why was the brand manual needed, right? And if you're creating the brand manual, which is what you have here, right? What value did your work generate? In other words, what was the feedback from the client? And that's number one. Number two is, how did the brand manual improve your brand? How has it translated into some sort of brand equity for them? I want to see that. And it could be screenshots, just like I said. It could be clear screenshots, right? And so these are things that I want to see aside from the image or a bunch of images that are attached here. So you don't even need to put this much here. If you stop at this point, you stop at photography, I'm fine. You don't need to add visual mockups because visual mockups will change over time. But there's certain things that won't change. Every brand foundation of the photography typically changes, and pattern typically changes, but mockups will change, right? And it looks like you spent a quarter of the page talking about mockups, which is not bad. It's just that I would have wanted it to be spent doing other things like research, like putting together the feedback from the client, like how you were able to come up with this. In other words, what were the platforms that you used? For instance, I created a brand manual for stairs. It would be a long journey trying to access it. And the bulk of my work was, the foundation for the bulk of the work I did on the brand manual was set by Adobe, was set by Spotify, was set by Microsoft brand manual. I researched like 10 different brand manuals, right? You don't want people to think that the idea of brand manual was given to you from God. That's what I'm saying here, right? And so that is basically some of the feedback here. The work is good, right? And if I'm rating it over 10, I'll rate it a 6 over 10. And secondly is, at some point, you want to cut it short and you want to basically create a link for me to go and read about it because I would like to read about it. It might inspire me to create something similar. And then I'll come back here and then I'll drop a comment that, oh, this was good. This helped me to do this. This helped me to do that. Besides that, these are some of the things that I like to see are very important for me from recruiting for that role. For someone else, it's the visuals, but you and I both know that it is not just the video that the client is looking for. They want to see documentation. At least a very, very important client that values the brand manual. Then this is brand identity. Full brand identity design for Play. I'm going to assume the client is Playcode, right? Game Studio, brand identity, about Playcode Game Studio. I like the about us, about it. Overview communicates the brand identity, Playcode Game Studio. Interesting. Logo, single structure, okay. So I like the fact that I can't remember, I think it was the first portfolio I was reviewing. These were some of the things I was trying to look for, right? How did you arrive at the identity itself? I like the fact that you merged C plus the game part, come up with it, which is interesting as well. But the truth is, I don't see how that transfers into Playcode Game Studio. So you might as well just put C and this together for the visuals and not how it translates. A typical way to do that is you can put plus inside O to make it play code, right? Or you can just put these four shapes as the iconography for the text. And I would see that, okay, there's a relationship there. And so, but like right now, I don't see no relationship. If this is the logo, then pattern, I like that you used it as a pattern. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm correcting myself. This is not the logo, right? This is the logo. And so I like that you integrated it. It makes a lot of sense. Of course, as much as there is clarity as to how you got to here, and the process is pretty clear, makes a lot of sense, right? And so I can see the process, and I can see that you took your time to come up with the process. This is good, but still some things that I would have wanted to see is still around. But let me not jump to conclusion, because with this project, I've learned not to do that. So, but then this is the end of it. But based on some of the things I mentioned earlier, I want to see the feedback from the client, right? And then I want to see your research, right? And not just how did you come up with this idea? Did you speak to folks? Did you do research? Did this stuff similar towards it? Did the client let you know that this is, which is another thing that I'd like to mention. It is not a shame for clients to give you ideas of what they want, right? It's how you put it and how you structure it that matters, right? So based on what I'm looking at, right, I think this 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually looking more interesting. Just overview, and based on the thumbnails that you're using here, this 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are more interesting than this top 3, which goes back to my point around prioritize your best projects. And I could be wrong, but it is important that you speak to people and say, what do you think is the best? And you can also get best projects based on the feedback you get from the client. If a client is telling you, coming back to you multiple times, I'm sure most of us have experienced it, and they're like, wow, that project, guy, it was crazy, it was off the hook. Like, if you know what that project has done for us. When I did the brand manual for stairs, I remember the CEO kept talking to me, and then of course, I was an internal team member, but every time you want to use brand manual, you consult with me to know what they're taking out. Because about 3 different companies, we sent them, so the logo was split into 3 different sections, right? There was the foundations, which are the composition of the colors, the typography, the logo itself, the logo usage. Then secondary is where you have the patterns, the photography, the illustrations. The third is where you have the mockups, right? And the tertiary rather. And so we have companies that kept coming back and we were sharing with the primary section of the logo. And they kept coming back and saying they want to see the full brand manual, right? And I'm like, there is no need for them to see the full brand manual. And the reason is because by the time they were sharing their own brand manual, it was nothing to write home about. And so they were looking for our full brand manual to be able to replicate and use it for theirs. But because we were very, very confidential about that document, we didn't share certain parts of it unless it is needed. So if the kind of collaboration we're having with you requires the secondary part of the brand manual, that is what we will share, right? So it's the part that you need that we'll share with you. So affiliate marketing, I still need basic information about this, right? What is the scope of the work, right? I'm going to assume all of these designs are together because I can see certain characteristics, certain elements on it that are similar. For instance, the fonts, right? I can see the layout is similar, even though the background is not. And I can see that it was done for a client called Remedy. It could be wrong. But I want to see the scope of the work. I want to see the value of this to the client. In other words, what does the client want to use this for? I want to see the conversations you've had. I want to see your research. So, which is another thing I'd like to point out. Trust me, one of the key things that has made me good at what I do, and I can say that proudly, I am good at what I do. One of the key things that make me good at what I do is that for every project I take, I research it. Pinterest is my favorite tool. Pinterest, right? If you can't find anything on Pinterest, especially with the creative space. I don't think you can find it anywhere because your Behance, your Dribble, your Mobile, your a lot of other platforms that you can get resources on, your UX Labs, they are all on Pinterest. Most of their resources are there. So I researched if I just finish this and then I'm creating, unless maybe they want this to be the template for their brand, which would make sense. If I'm creating it for different clients, if I just finish something similar to this, I'll go and research on another way to do it for that client. That way, there is no similarity whatsoever. So yeah, I want to see your research. And you can predict the next thing I'm about to say. I want to see the feedback from the client. Did they love it? How many revision cycles did you have? Did they dislike it? Did you come to a compromise with them? Don't be shy to put that up. Trust me. It's not a problem. What's important is it basically teaches you how to document things and how to articulate yourself. Because these are things that would culminate in presentations for you. Because you will make presentations of wherever you're working. Then this will be the last one I'm reviewing is since a lot of the feedback are close to what I've already mentioned around the story behind the work, right? And this is Edoko and not. So I can see Edoko and Remedy, which is another thing I would like to point out. If you have if you have a client that is consistent with giving you projects to work on, find a way to categorize their projects together. These are stuff Behance will never offer you. So for instance, I can see that you don't work for Remedy back to back, right? Find a way to put your work together. And then, so by the time you put that work together, I know that I'm reviewing a case study for Remedy, right? If it's another client, I'm reviewing a case because I can see here that there is Idoko and then there is Remedy, right? I would have preferred to see everything categorized on that. It makes your work neater and better. All right, that's everything about this portfolio. I feel like we're pressed for time. Elsie, please, what time are we supposed to end this? Elsie, can you hear me? All right. So I guess
I
it's
hear you,
probably
but my neck has been pressing my neck. Can you hear me?
yes. I said, what time are we supposed to end this?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right. So if you can hear me, I'll just drop a message for you on in Telegram. So the next person would be IG.
We are supposed to end by 7.
Okay. All right. So if it's okay
We're
with
supposed to
everyone,
end by 7.
okay, there is a lag, obviously. If it's okay with everyone, okay with you, I would want to review as much as I can. So from this point forward, I will be trying to summarize, seeing some of the basic principles of the portfolio that I've mentioned before still holds, right? So I won't really dwell on them if I see instances where they are caught. That's number one. Number two is, if it's okay, can we do 7:30? If you want to drop off, you can drop off. But if you still want me to review your portfolio, that's fine. So the next person is Cornelius Ajewale. Okay, so Cornelius Ajewale, I can see a text for your portfolio, right? Olamide Ajewale. Just like I mentioned before, please just put out if it's a portfolio review, unless maybe it's CV and portfolio review, which I can see that the topic says. All right, thanks, Elsie, for getting back to me. I can see that the channel says CV and resume and portfolio review, but what I would want is maybe basically, like I mentioned before, put a link to your portfolio on the page and not in your. It's good to be in your resume, but for this context, I'd like for it to be a separate section or a separate text on its own. That way I can click on it easily. So, because think about it this way: if this is getting submitted for a job ad and you get 20 people and 15 of them basically put out links to their portfolio, and another 5 put it in their resume, I may not see it. I may not even check it. And that is me being honest. And trust me, if you ask a lot of people, they'll say the same thing. But hopefully that is not the case in the near future. So Olamide Ajewole, I'm going to put that in Behance now. Olamide Ajewole. For those asking for a link to my portfolio, I've attached the link to the Telegram channel for CV and portfolio. That way you can check it. If you have feedback for me, I'm happy to take feedback. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer questions. All right. Cornelius Adiwale, hi, if you underscore, how you doing? So I can see that you have a short summary about yourself, which is nice. So I'm going to read it briefly. So the product designer. So I'm going to assume that here, and obviously there's a reinforcement here that says a product designer. Then, just like I mentioned before, if you want to reach out, please put that contact information there. Reach out to me by mail. Just type your email or your phone number of some sort. But ideally, the professional setting, the email, and email is what works. So, for the sake of time, I'll probably only be reviewing 2 portfolios and just glancing at the third and giving a general feedback. Two projects rather, if that's fine. So the first is Flow Mono Email Page Redesign. Okay, so this is not bad. I like the design, but this would work if I am looking for a junior product designer, because for a mid product designer, or probably if I'm looking for an intern, because like I said, the space is very competitive now, right? If you check, I'm pretty sure you've seen crazy portfolios on Behance, and I say crazy because so portfolios I'll be like, who did you kill? Who are you trying to impress me? And they like the basic things. But if it's about the visuals, we've seen way crazier portfolio on Behance. So for an intern, for a junior, I would think about this, not even prioritize this. I'll think about it, and it's still around some of the things I've mentioned before around documentation. It is very important. Trust me, the space of design and creative, and the creative industry is pretty crowded with visuals right now, that people that are in leadership position, they value documentation as much as they value visual, right? Even there's this platform that me and Leslie were talking about a couple of, I think it was last year before we relocated. I think this guy that works with them, they do really crazy out of the box visuals, but they also document, right? They prioritize visuals a lot, but they document it because they know that there's certain clients that is that documentation that they need to be able to know that, okay, these people are actually thorough. Because these are values that people hold dear. The documentation is very important. And trust me, at some point you begin to enjoy the documentation. So that's my feedback here. Scale of 1 to 10, I'll give this a 1, because obviously this is not providing with any content. Nigerian voting system, UX case study, Nigeria elect UX case study, team members and roles. Yes, I love this. I love this a lot. And the reason why I love this is because there's something that people don't typically do that I've seen that actually gives you an advantage. And that is the fact that if you're working on a project, trust me, clients want to see that you have a collaborating spirit than the fact that you can do solo work. Especially when you're looking to work in an agency, right? When you're looking to work in a large organization, people don't want you to handle everything. Trust me. If it seems like it with Nigerian jobs, in international space, no. So find a way to add people that you collaborated with in your project, right? So for instance, let me see if I can open this thing. Sorry. So I did a portfolio one time I call it a grand portfolio. I'm gonna open that so it doesn't take forever. So I did this portfolio in I think 2018, 2019-ish, right? And can everyone see my Google Drive?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So I did this portfolio 2018, 2019-ish, right? And looking back at it now, it's still relevant. It's just that I don't use it much because my focus more is around This was when I was more into graphics, but my focus more is around being in leadership positions across graphics and product, right? Of course, I take product contracts, which is why my portfolio and website exists. So, portfolio, content, I have my resume, then I have the different clients I work with, right? So, this is my resume. This is not my full resume. This was an offshoot of my resume. And like I said, this was 2018, 2019. Then this is my work experience. These are the clients I work with, right? And then, so the reason why sometimes PDF portfolio is really nice, you have full control of the layout of the content you put on it. These are some of the other clients I work with, right? So that is, then this is my process. Then these are the case studies, right? So the first case study is Pulse Studio. This is the background, the objectives, the tasks, the constraints, and the challenges I had. The summary right here, right? This is basically the scope of the work, the constraints, and the challenges that we had with the particular client. This is the computer research. I researched Maven, I researched Sonar, and I didn't just research them for your brand, I researched their colors because the client wanted to be in that space. In other words, they wanted to be able to compete with the industry leaders. And what I need to do is find a way to use to separate them from the competition. And our best to do that is to sample the colors of the competition, look for something that's not entirely similar, right? Then this is exactly the information the client gave us because we wanted clarity on what they wanted. I say us because there was a team, but I was the lead, right? Now, and to be honest, even if you all know the way in this industry, even if there is nobody that works with you, you can put the people that give you feedback as part of it. You can call them, give them titles, maybe researcher, design researcher, or design critic. Don't worry, it flies. This is exactly what the client wanted. I want the Phoenix we're represented in our logo. Its features resonate with us. And then this is how, trust me, this was not the process, but it is important I put this in because it's part of what I think the client would like as the process. This is what I came up with, the colors, the typography, the pattern, and I did this for all. And it makes the portfolio really long, but by the time the client reads 2 or 3, the client is thinking I'm bullshitting. You can easily go back and read the last 2 or 3, and then they see similarities between them, right? That's basically how I did it. This is another client. This one is for a church that I work with, and then we created identities inside identity, right? So they had a church, and then they now had a church. They now had some other departments in the church that they would like us to create identities for, right? So that's basically that. It's called the Neo. Some of you might have heard about it. And these are some of the identities we created. So they named these nations. They named them nations, and then these are the nations. Then they called service teams, right? These are some of the service teams logos that we created, right? And then this is the flow chart for the website, wireframes. The website still exists today, right? And this is what I was referring to when I opened this. Project credits, the team, sponsor and file, the nature, project manager. This is the real project manager. Design and lead, me. Development, me. Content, this. Content editor, this, right? So, and then you can see the project. This was my former, when I was using WordPress. You remember I mentioned at the beginning that I was using WordPress to host. This was where it was sitting. Right now, if you click on it, it doesn't work. And that is it, right? It is important you put that credits. It is not a requirement, but it is important. And if you check at the end of this project, it's there. It's just a reusable template. This is another project I worked on. This was the project I worked on in 2017, 2018. The point I'm trying to drive home is this. If that was the case, then what do you think will be the case now? Which means you should not sit down in one place. Keep researching. Keep evolving. See, I have reviewed my portfolio more than 5 times. If I see something really nice and then it's someone that I look up to, I will copy it. It is fine. It is the end that matters, right? I'll copy it and I will use. So I love this, right? Even though it's like all of them have the same rules, but the fact that you put it there makes a lot of sense. Project overview. See, why didn't you just prioritize this project first? This is what I've been asking for. The problems, right? It's pretty clear. The solution you came up with, the responsibilities, beautiful, beautiful. And if you remember, it is not the best design, but it works. I can see the process. Basically, you use design thinking, awesome. Qualitative research, awesome. User flows, awesome. Awesome. Like that, like that. I'm not going to spend too much time, but I already see what I need. See, you even did competitive analysis. I already see what I need, and I'll give this project 8/10. And with this project, I will definitely reach out to you and say, let's talk. Because it works. It basically has everything that I think it should have. And when I mean everything, I don't mean that there are certain parts, for instance, there is no user journey mapping and all of that, but user flows work. Not all projects need to have all of this. But as long as you can clearly follow the process that you created, that flies. This is good. This is good, right? But still, one more thing. The reason why I won't give it 10/10 is the same thing I've been mentioning. The feedback from the client. It is important, right? That is the only thing that this project like. Feedback from the client. How did the project convert for them, right? Every other thing is smooth. It is present. Feedback from the client. How did the project convert for them? And if it's a real life project, it will be awesome. If it's not if it's a real life project, add a link to where the project is. Unless it's there, it's not there. Add a link to it, right? If it's not a real life project, then that's totally fine as well. So beautiful work, right? But still got a couple of things that makes it no problem. At this point, I'm done with this portfolio. I don't even need to look at the third one. Unless I just want to say, okay, let me see how good your designs are. But like I said, I do need to look at the third one. And to be honest, I actually shouldn't have looked at the third one. So my point here, Cornelius, if you underscore is all I need on this to show that you're good at what you do is this one. Just this one. If you have similar projects that look like this, put it there. But these two, I do not need them here. It's nice to have, which is why I'm using the word need. It's nice to have, but I do not need them here. In fact, if you can put them at the bottom, if Behance, I don't know if Behance allows you to do that, put them at the bottom. But this should be your number one. Makes sense. That's that. I didn't have to spend time on that. Okay, let's do two more. So let me see. Let me see. So for number 5, all right. So I can see number 5, and I can see Babajide Ajayomi. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I hope I did pronounce it right. So Mr. Peter Ogunmola. Okay, YouTube. Interesting. That's the French. Can everyone see my YouTube? Hello?
I can. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right.
Yes.
YouTube, that's interesting and different, but I'm still going to review because sometimes different is good. And trust me, this industry is always evolving. What that means is there is no particular direction. There are consistent directions, but nobody said you can't go out of the norm to create a portfolio, right? So if you want to be different and you create a YouTube portfolio, fine. It saves me time because I just need to watch it for 1 minute. So let's do this.
So deep in love, when I dream of dying, so deep in love, when I dream of
All right. So love the motion, really good. And from what I can get here, I'll give you feedback basically. So if Mr. Peter is on this call, really love the motion design. It's really good. I love the show reel as well. But I don't know what you do specifically. I don't know if someone has told you. I see still designs, still graph. I know that what you do is in the creative space or graphics design, brand design, and I can also see motion design. But I need to get clarity, right? In other words, what the clarity I get will help to determine the use case I'm going to use to address this. However, I'm going to assume my assumption is you are still a motion designer, or let me say you're still a motion designer. So still being graphics design, motion being motion graphics design, animation, and all of that. Right. So that is the first thing. Please add what you do to the show. The song is good, love it, but please be careful. Copyright issues are always on song, and you risk Google unless maybe you speak to the client generally. And another thing is, if you can't put it here, if you don't want to put what you do here, you can add it as some form of transcript here or some form of copy details for the video, so I can basically read it. Then the other thing with motion, just like I said, is copyright. There was this thing that happened in this church in the US. Can't remember the name of the church. And they did an Easter celebration, right? The Easter celebration looked like a Grammy Awards event. It was crazy. People were criticizing it, right? I know that I also gave my opinion on it. But for some reason, the church didn't put it on YouTube. And then the YouTubers that were reviewing it didn't actually put it on YouTube as well. The ones that were putting it on YouTube, they were muting it. And I was bothered. And so I spoke to a YouTube pro. He's a friend of mine. And then the guy was like, the reason why they are doing that is because YouTube now is very strict on copyright, even down to music copyright, such that even though they are not the original creator of the video, if they play that video on their channel and the music plays without the clear permission from the music producer or the musical artist, YouTube could potentially ban their page. So my point is, in this case, I'm going to assume you have copyright to use the song, because if you don't, what someone can easily do, just come here, report, select where is this? Infringes my rights, straight up, and YouTube will take your video down. And just like that, you lose potential. You keep preparing people to your video, and they won't save. The ones that are nice will come back and tell you, I can't find your video. The ones that are not, we just move on. How do you think you're unserious? But you don't actually know that video is that, right? So that is that. Second, the third thing is, it's still the same thing. If you're a motion designer, right, you have a lot of skill, but I still want to see process. And you might say that there is no process in the motion design. I know there is process because I've seen it. For instance, you can talk about introduction, the scope of the work, your storyboarding, right? How do you create clear story for the motion that you created, right? The feedback you got from the client, right? And you know, I'm probably repeating that more often. It's because it's very important, right? Feedback you got from the client. How did he convert for that one, right? Who are the people you collaborated with? I want to see that, right? But the motion is good, no doubt. It makes it interesting if you're a motion designer. Obviously, I'll see potential. I'll reach out to you, and then reach out to you for just a short conversation around your work. But I'm reaching out to you because I'm skeptical to know if a lot of the work is something that you actually have clear stories behind. If you can't tell me clear stories behind your work, I'll be skeptical about having other conversations with you. I think that's essentially the feedback. But like I said, the motion is good. Back in this when I used to use After Effects, I know how crazy motion can be. And putting it together is another step that is really good. So yeah, nice work. That's that. Then the final person here. Oh, let me ask. LZ, can you hear me? Is it okay for me? There's someone that pasted their portfolio, Babajide Ajeyomi. Is it
Yeah,
okay for me
so
to repeat that? Or
yeah,
you don't want
he's on the call, so you can. He's on the call, so you
all right.
can.
Okay. So Babajide Ajeyomi, hi, how you doing? So I'm not going to look at your resume because that's not entirely what this call is about. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the drive link that you shared. Okay, finally, someone sharing a PDF portfolio. I'm looking forward to an interesting experience. This is the last one, so I'm going to take my time. But I will try as much as possible to go beyond 10 minutes. So if people have questions, they can ask. Then before I go ahead, there's something that I'm not seeing on the portfolios. And the reason is because Behance, Dribble, and Co will not let you do that. And that is some of the achievements, some of the mentions you've had, some of the blogs that have taken up your article, some of the interviews you've had, awards, that sort of thing. It's important for your portfolio. And the reason why it's important is if I've seen everything I need, and then it gives you negotiating power. So if my budget for that role is 700,000 or 600,000, if I can see your awards, your achievements, that sort of thing, I would be able to say, okay, this person would probably be worth a 1 million or 1.5. That works. It's the reason why people put stuff up on blog, people have articles and all of that. There's this lady called PC Tim. I'm pretty sure you've heard about her. We don't know each other, but I've seen what she does. And one thing PC Timmy does is put herself out there. And trust me, PC Timmy is the kind of person that, funny thing, she may not have a lot of work in her portfolio, but because she puts herself out there through content and she talks about her achievements, it means that companies will literally create roles for her. Not job ads that she's applying for, they create roles. So that is another thing I would like to mention. Achievements awards, they're very important. They are not uh, they're not a requirement, but they're important. All right. Portfolio about GDI. Content, nice. About brand identity, portfolio, social media is nice. So if you remember, I mentioned about categorizing your work. And trust me, like I said, Behance wouldn't give you much room to do that. And if you can see this person has clearly categorized the work. Brand identity, logo folios, social media designs. It's pretty simple. Now, the use case here will be obviously the fact that this person is a graphics designer, which is another thing. So I can't see what you do here. I can only assume that you're a graphics designer, a communications designer. You can see portfolio, you can see your name, perhaps add what you do under it. That's number two. So I am Babaji Dajiyomi, love the brief content. Finally, someone is adding contact information, which is good. I think I've emphasized on that way too many times. So I don't need your Instagram. I may not need your phone number. I just need your email address. And the question here would be, why would you send me a PDF link when there's a Behance? I'm not going to look at the Behance obviously because this is what I'm more interested in. But for the benefit of that, let's look at Behance. Papa GD, okay, Papa GD, Yomi. And voila. Okay. I'm sorry, Vajide, your Behance is not what I needed. So it reinforces that. Let's go back to the PDF. So experience, fantastic, which is another thing that I'd like to see. There are times when people don't really look at your resume, they want to look at your portfolio, which is why here, if you notice, where's the grand portfolio thing again? If you notice, I put my resume here as well. That way, if you miss it, if you don't look at the resume, the PDF file, you can look at it here, my resume and my work experience, right? So that's that. So I like that you actually talk briefly about your resume. Experience, education, creative fields, tools. I'm looking for achievements. I'm looking for mentions. I'm looking for awards. Also, please add that. Now, brand identity designs. Fashion brand based in UK, producer types, casual wears, disciplines and coffee politics. Okay. So I think I've mentioned this multiple times, and I'm going to mention it again. If I'm interested in one page work, I'll basically request it. But like I said, I want to see a process. I want to see a flow, right? And you don't need to actually put 1,001 brand related work for me to know that you're good at what you do. Like I mentioned to the last person that was reviewing their product work, one project can convince me, just one. Which is why I mentioned earlier that I have used this to get 2 projects, and I've used it to get to the final stages of interviews, right? I've used this to get 2 gigs, and I've used this to get just this one, which is why, if you notice, it is the first thing on my portfolio. Which is, if you read this, you would basically feel like I have all I need. You can read this as well. You can read this. But you feel like I have what I need. I don't need to go through the others. So that's that. So if it's just 1 or 2 that is clearly documented, all well and good, right? So that is that. But this one page, they're not doing it for me. It's not showing me anything aside the mockups. That's all. Then so I'm going to assume that you did brand identity mockup, right? And I'm going to assume that is probably the scope of what the client wanted, which is totally fine. But I want to see the process. Is this ID card part of it, or is this like part of design? Because it doesn't look, and it says this is a demo text. Please don't use demo text in your portfolio. It basically shows that your work is not real, and basically shows that you didn't invest a lot of time in your work, right? So I'm running out of time here. Then the same thing applies here. Clear body of work, clear process. Same thing applies here. Logofolio. Okay, so logofolio is not bad. Like it. I like that it's clear. So, because the difference between logofolio and brand work is logofolio is just logo, right? And if I'm looking for you to give you a logo contract, that's fine. But that is not the use case, because it didn't say that you're a logo designer. It says that you're a brand and communications designer. At least that's the assumption I'm making. The portfolio is good, social media designs we can fly with. But I would also, what would give you an edge is if you do research on these designs, right? But they can still fly, no doubt about that. They're still good with just still images, social media designs. If you do social media designs, okay, I'm going to assume the first one is for capsule, right? So I like how you categorize them. Regina, awesome work. I like how you categorize, which is what I mentioned before. Awesome work. Birthday flyers. See, really good. On a scale of 1 to 10, because of the fact that there isn't clear documentation, I'll give you a 5. But then it's worth having a conversation with again, right? And another thing I can do is I can chat you up and say, hey, what's up? Love your portfolio. I'd like to see the clear body of work, if that's not too much. And if you feel like you want to work with the company I work with, not necessarily me, because I mean, it may not be me reviewing your work. If you feel like you want to work with the company I work with, yeah, you can share the body of work with me. And I'll be patient enough to look at it, because I see a lot of potential here. But I want to see, like, and documentation is the process, the research, feedback from the client, the multiple iterations you have to do with this. I'm going to assume that you didn't just do one logo and the client accepted it, unless you read the client's one, or unless the client gave you an idea of what they want, which is not bad, but I still want to see that. So that's basically everything about this. I think that sums it all up. Took way more than 10 minutes on this one. All right. So please, questions. I'll try as much as possible to answer them in the short time that we have, or in the short time that we have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, unless your questions is related to screen sharing. I'm done. Thank you. Anyone question?
Okay. Peter, you can unmute and ask your question.
All right, good evening. Thank you for the reviews. Okay, my question is not really that much. It's just based on the motion review that you gave. So you talk about storyboarding and some other things. So I actually want
Yes.
to ask because one thing I've been thinking of is that while working on motion, there is something that you need to actually keep on doing to entertain your people so that they are not distracted by probably other activities on YouTube and the likes. So
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that adding storyboarding to show your process of how you achieve all those works and everything. Don't you think it will make the show reel to be somehow long, and on the long run someone can actually lose interest of what is trying to check on the show reel? So that's why I need to ask that. What do you think about that? Do you think there is need for one to infuse it in the show reel? Because that's just a question though.
All right. That's a good question. Thank you. It's a show reel. You don't have to, but think about it this way. It's important. I mentioned something earlier, and that is the fact that you want to create. I'm going to assume the show reel is your portfolio. You want to create portfolio specifically for the kind of projects you want to apply for. The portfolio I shared, which is mine, is specifically for product work. Then I showed you another one which is in PDF, specifically for brand work. The kind of projects you apply for, the kind of client you're sending this to. And this is not necessarily an in-house designer or motion person. If you apply for contracts, it's also important. This information or advice is important. The kind of project we apply for will determine the kind of reel you would show. If you see that your client, now please bear in mind that my answer to that question is it is relative, which means if you see that your client is someone that values this thing, you would have researched them. Then you put it there. And when you put it there, you don't need to show maybe more than 2 or 3 different projects that you worked on, right? And I'm pretty sure there are ways that you can put storyboarding in a reel that won't make it boring. You don't need to show it for like 10 seconds. You just need to show it for like a glance. Let me see that process. So, for instance, you put out the project title, and then I'll probably find a reel to share with you. But when you put on the project title, you basically walk through maybe step 1, this is what we did, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then in short, clear animations that I would love or the client would love. In some other cases, if you're putting it out there just for random people, of course you don't have to put it. But because of the fact that nobody here wants to do stuff for random people, they are not sure they are not going to convert. In fact, I'm pretty sure the average person here, I'm not pretty sure, but I'm going to assume that the average person here is putting a portfolio, would rather send a portfolio to someone, or would rather create a portfolio for a particular purpose or for a particular client that they know that is going to give them the jackpot project, right? Instead of just randomly creating it because everybody is creating it. If that is the case, then the kind of client you have will determine if you're putting it or not. So it's relative. But in a lot of cases, I'd advise you put it. It's part of the process. And there are creative ways to put it that won't make it boring. Like I said, I've seen it. I'll share one with you, hopefully before the end of the day. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Any other question?
Okay, Baba Jide, you can go ahead. We'll be taking your question as the last question for today. If you have other questions, you can share them in the chat in this chat section for the CV and portfolio for the answers to be answered after the call. So, Baba Jide, you can unmute your mic so we go ahead with the question.
All right. Good evening, boss. Thank you for the reviews. As regarding my portfolio, I've not really worked with anybody that is really serious that I can get all those ideas of what they want. Some people most of the people I've worked with just tell me, they need a logo. I should create something for them. Okay, what are your colors? What are the things you need? I just say do anything. So sometimes most of the things I've done is that just my own. They are products of my own thoughts and what I could come up with. So sometimes the process, the challenges, and all that. Sometimes they're not something I can really document. So how do I work on that when people don't really have they don't really know what they want? Just say you should do something for them. How do
Okay.
one document
Good
the
question.
process and the
That's a very good
the
question. So, um, what I'm going to use myself as a relatable experience. And one of the projects I worked on, right? So, one of the projects I work on is this one. It was for a producer. He's no more, passed away, I think last year now. And when we were having conversations, he said he at first it was like he didn't know what he wanted, right? But he said that I come up with what he wants and what he likes, he will let me know. And see, that is a that is a recipe for disaster. Because what that means is that the moment the client tells you that, what it basically means is that you won't have sleepless nights. You will have sleepless nights because you would exactly be thinking, if I give it to this client, I really like this. If I give it to that, I really like this. Especially when you actually give it to the client doesn't like it 2 times, right? And also, if you show a client and they like what you give to them immediately, you ask them for feedback. What should you change? If they say there is nothing to change, and then you ask them for testimonies, like, okay, can you tell me how your experience on this project has been like? And sometimes if you don't ask, they don't say it. And you can start with, and this is actually one of the things that helps bring value to your process. Because the way you actually approach things will determine if the client will pay you 1 million or will pay you 10,000. For instance, if the client says, I want a logo, and then you send them a questionnaire, you tell them, if you don't fill this questionnaire, we are not making progress. In the questionnaire, you ask 3 questions that are important for your documentation. Pretty sure they are questionnaire templates. When someone else told me this, I was skeptical about it, thinking my clients are lazy. And I tried it once, it worked. Because they need you to deliver. And if that is what it takes to deliver, if you have to sit on their asses to get them to deliver, fine, on that particular questionnaire. But you're not going to make progress without the questionnaire. So you tell them, this questionnaire, please fill it. If you don't want to fill it, tell them we're not going to. And you are wondering that they may not pay you and move on to someone else, right? Collect the money and send them the questionnaire. After all, you've collected the money. If they are saying you are stressing them, put them on a phone call and fill the questionnaire while you're on that call. It is their project, it is their business. They come to you because they believe in you. They believe you can deliver. So it's important you help them deliver on what needs to be done, right? So you need to actually create that process that requires that information. If you don't create a process, you won't know. And if one client, 2 clients don't give you the information you need, don't assume that the third or the fourth client won't. Keep trying it. And once you can find that 1 person or 2 people that can do that for you, those are the 2 people that you should put your portfolio on their project on. Then also there's some information that you don't necessarily need to get from the client, or you don't need to spend a lot of effort getting from them. So for instance, the objective here, I researched it, which is this is what they do, how long have they been in existence? These are direct questions that client can answer for you. Then why do they need a logo? I'm sure a client can answer that. You put that together in a comprehensive way, and then you talk about your task. While you're on the project, you talk. If one of your constraints is, one of them says our first constraint and challenge was getting client sign off on one of our various ideas presented to the client, right? Basically, that is saying that the clients did not know what they want at first. It was eventually they said that they wanted something that has Phoenix in it. And when I presented the Phoenix, but they loved it. So that's number one. Then number 2 is, if you can't find a client that can do that for you, then create a project. Maybe there is a bank that you don't like what their identities look like. Nobody said that a self project or a personal project rather is a bad idea. It's just that professional projects give you more advantage. But if all you have in your portfolio is personal projects that are very comprehensive, you'd be surprised that someone will prioritize that over someone with professional projects that are not comprehensive. So you can look at a bank that their logo is not the best, then you can rebuild it. There's so much information about the bank. I can tell you 2 or 3 banks that their logo is not the best. You can rebuild it, create the process, the build it, the colors, the text, the websites, everything. And then you look for someone that works in that bank to do your research. Or a friend that works in that bank. And even if the logo is good, find a way to make the logo better. That's it, right? That's basically it. The process is important. Create one. If you can't find clients that will help you create it, create one for yourself. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, boss.
All right, sir. Okay. Thank you everyone for having me. I'm sorry I took a lot of time, and I like to be very thorough with my session, and I hope we all learn one thing or the other on those sessions. Elsie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Victor. It was a packed section. Like you dissected our portfolio very well. Thank you for giving us your time and to do this. Thanks everyone. Thanks to everyone who joined on the call, those who shared their portfolio, those who asked questions. We really do appreciate this. Not to forget, we're going to have another session next week. So don't stay tuned. It might not be on a weekend, might be during the week, but we're going to send a notice out to you next week. For those who would like to probably learn, like I see some persons they are eyeing Victor's portfolio on Webflow. I'm thinking of how to create a portfolio on Webflow. We'll do well to bring someone in to show you how to create your portfolio on Webflow. I'm going to use this opportunity to remind everyone Overlay Academy um, Cohort 9 is starting May 20th, and the courses available are the UI UX design course, we have the brand design course, as well as the Webflow course. We also are bringing back our front end course that is going to start on the 10th of June. So if you know anybody that knows anybody, please direct them to our website www.overlay.academy. We currently have discounts ongoing, and there's also a discount plus installment plan. So that's a lot of goodies. So thank you very much. We hope you have a lovely evening. Thanks once again, Victor, for the session. We really do appreciate.
Sorry,
And do
one more
have
thing.
a
Sorry,
okay.
for those, I just realized that there were more
Okay.
portfolios. For those for number 6, 7, 8 that I didn't get to review, I apologize for that. Hopefully another time we can get to that.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you, Faith. So do have a lovely evening. See you guys in chats. Please let's interact or let's ask questions. If you have any questions that we missed, you can drop them in chat. Victor can always go through them and answer when he can. So thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Jerry, we will go and make the purpose